So that's just a little history and background. What we also saw was that there used to be a system called Power Track, where the poorest people in the community, they had little boxes on their wall, they had a little card, and they could go up to HEB, they could put money in that card and they could swipe their card, and you could look on the box and it would tell you how much time you have left, how much electric you have left. And if you ran out and the electricity turned off, you didn't have to pay anything. You just went up to HEB, you put more money on the card, and you turn your electric back on. But then one day, about 10 or 11 years ago, he decided that they did not want those Power Track machines in the homes anymore. So they took them all out, so that any poor person who got their electric shut off, they now have to pay over 100, sometimes over 200 bucks to get turned back on. And I asked them about it. I said, what happened to Power Track? Did the machines stop working? What was the problem? And they told me that there were too many people sitting around in their houses with no electricity on because of Power Track. And I said, there are too many people sitting around in their houses with no electricity for longer periods of time because there's no Power Track. And so that justification did not hold up either. And now let's bring it to the present day. BTU and CSU and many other utility companies chose, because of the COVID-19 crisis, when it was at a much lower level than it is now, they chose to stop cutoffs because they could see that there was an economic crisis looming, which many people are in fact experiencing in this community. And as of today, BTU has started shutting off power again. They chose to shut off power again, and I asked them who made this decision. And the response was, well, the executive team of BTU suggested it, the board of directors voted on it. So I said, what about the fact that there's a pandemic right now? That there's nearly 1,000 active cases in the county, far more than that if you count the ones that are anonymous. 40 people have died in the county of COVID-19. We've seen layoffs from the biggest employers in Bryan, Compass USA, Cartwheels, all the dining, all the other services of low-wage jobs worked primarily by Hispanic and Black residents in Bryan. They've been laying off people. We saw CHI St. Joseph, biggest hospital in Bryan, lay off people. There's been a million other small businesses who have had to lay off people. They've had to cut hours. And in that context, the successful businessmen on the board and businesswoman on the board, the executives who, as far as I know, are still making over $150 a year, they decided it would be appropriate to start cutoffs. The hottest week of the year so far was when they announced it. And I have to say, I really questioned that decision. My friends, when they got their electric shut off, they couldn't hang out in their house anymore. It was too hot. They couldn't stay home and eat the food in their fridge. They had to go out and get it because all the food went bad. The governor and everyone with a lick of sense is telling us, if you can stay home now, stay home. It's the safest thing. It's how we're going to get this pandemic under control. But at the same time, BTU is taking actions that are going to get people out in the community, mixing it up more and more. Because if your electric's getting shut off, you're going to be out there hustling and bustling trying to get more money. Getting some work on the side, talking to people, applying for jobs more. If your electric's shut off, you can't stay in their house. You're going to have to go stay with other people if you have that option. A lot of people don't. You may even have to move in the mission with a whole big group of people. While our primary concern here is for the poor of this community, this affects all of us because this disease is infectious. And people having to leave their homes, it could lead to the next case getting into a nursing home because that's how infectious disease works. So BTU is not just trampling on the poor of this community, not just putting incredible stress upon poor families and individuals. They're also putting all of our health at risk. They're putting the lives of the elderly at risk. And it's unconscionable. Now when I spoke with, I'm sorry, am I going too long or am I good? Okay. Now when I spoke with the BTU representative, Mr. David Worley, on the executive team, real nice guy. He said, as I've heard before, if we don't start cutting people off, start threatening to cut people off to get them to pay more, then everyone else is going to have to pay more for their electric. It's going to fall on everybody else. That's the same thing they told me 10 years ago. When I asked, why do we have to have these high fees? And they said, well, it's going to bring in the extra money so that not everybody else has to pay more. So what we're supposed to believe is that if we don't abuse the poorest people in our communities, I might have to pay more. That's what we're supposed to believe. It was not long after they told me that it came out that executive was making $250,000 a year about 10 years ago. And it was a few days after that, where I was posting about this on Facebook, where community members who are in the know started to tell me, well, actually BTU has about $22 million sitting around their back pocket. They were planning on using it for something else that didn't pan out. And so they just have this money sitting around. $22 million is what I'm told. And when I spoke with this executive, member of the executive team, he said, well, we have $700,000 in unpaid debt due to this pandemic, and it's just going to be too big of a strain on the other customers. You're going to have to pay more. What's $700,000 compared to $22 million? I don't understand. $22 million, we could not cut off anybody till the pandemic's over and everybody's back to work, and we could cancel all of that if that's what we got. We don't have to worry about people getting behind if we got $22 million in our pocket. Let's use it on something besides a super park or whatever the city budget is asking for. We're facing a crisis for poor families. Let's use it for that. So, I believe I'm done speaking at this point, and I think there are others. There may be others here who have something they would like to share, experience they would like to share, or maybe not. But if you would, I'll set this megaphone down, wipe it with a Clorox wipe, and feel free to speak. Anyone who's here, you would like to share, even if you don't have experience, but you would like to share your thoughts on the situation. I know you all have thoughts. Please be bold. So yeah, thank y'all very much for being here. Thank the press for being here, and let's continue to hang out. We set this for 4 o'clock, knowing it's not the best time, but we wanted to be here when there are folks in the office, and we're planning to stay here through 6, so if people do get off at 5 and want to swing by, they can. So, thank you.
Yeah, I might make it worse. Take a minute to drive. Harrison City Hall. Alright, all the way up. Shatter the windows.
Hello. How's that? Alright, so we're going to try and sing loud enough so that City Hall can hear us, because it's not just the BTU board and executive that makes these decisions. It's the City Council has the power to change the city regulations so that the large fees are no longer exerted upon our poorest residents. They have the power to make BTU stop doing cutoffs. They're the ones who have the power to fix this as well. So please join me in this not at all corny protest song. These little lights of mine, I'm gonna let them shine. These little lights of mine, I'm gonna let them shine. These little lights of mine, I'm gonna let them shine. Let them shine, let them shine, let them shine. Won't let BTU cut them off. I'm gonna let them shine. Won't let BTU cut them off. I'm gonna let them shine. Won't let BTU cut them off. I'm gonna let them shine. Let them shine, let them shine, let them shine. This little fridge of mine, I'm gonna let it cool. This little fridge of mine, I'm gonna let it cool. This little fridge of mine, I'm gonna let it cool. Let it cool, let it cool, let it cool. Won't let BTU shut it off. I'm gonna let it cool. Won't let BTU shut it off. I'm gonna let it cool. Won't let BTU shut it off. I'm gonna let it cool. Let it cool, let it cool, let it cool. This little stove of mine, I'm gonna let it cook if it's electric. This little stove of mine, I'm gonna let it cook. Not gas, calamitous. This little stove of mine, I'm gonna let it cook. Let it cook, let it cook, let it cook. Won't let BTU cut it off. I'm gonna let it cook. Won't let BTU cut it off. I'm gonna let it cook. Won't let BTU cut it off. I'm gonna let it cook. Let it cook, let it cook, let it cook. For this last verse, I want to talk for a second about how when the quarantine began and after teachers had to scramble to figure out online learning in Bryan ISD, the Bryan School District, Independent School District, did a wonderful job of checking out laptops to kids whose family did not have devices for online learning. And they did a wonderful job helping families find access to the free internet services that have become available because of the pandemic so they could learn. And the teachers did a wonderful job at busting their butts to figure out how to teach in a way they never had before. I can attest to this because my wife's a teacher, and I watched her work her fingers to the bone on teaching kids, on working with the schedules of the families, and every other teacher in Bryan ISD was working just as hard And now we're facing a real possibility that we're going to be doing that again. And my question is, how are all the kids in Bryan ISD who get their electric shut off, how are they going to run those laptops? How are they going to have access to internet when they don't got electricity going in their house? How are they going to learn? So even if they have the option of staying home, if their parents feel that's safer, they're going to be forced back into school. Whether or not they have elderly grandparents taking care of them, whether or not their families feel that safe. So that's why this next verse is, these little kids of mine, I'm going to let them learn. And I'll say that even if they choose to go back to school, you can't do homework in the house with the lights off, where it's too hot to be. You can't learn at school, and you can't sleep at night because you've been up sweating off and on all night. So, these little kids of mine, I'm gonna let them learn. These little kids of mine, I'm gonna let them learn. These little kids of mine, I'm gonna let them learn. Let them learn, let them learn, let them learn. Won't let BTU cut us off. I'm gonna let them learn. Won't let BTU cut us off. I'm gonna let them learn. Won't let BTU cut us off. I'm gonna let them learn. Let them learn, let them learn, let them learn.
Thank you. Hey, Alice. Okay, so who wants to be the first one to talk and tell us your name and what brought you out here? Even if it's just your feelings on the issue, those are important. Who's going to do both? Raphael, thank you, brother. Hey, Jane.
Everybody named Raphael. But what brought me out here today was Dan and Carlos' leadership on this issue. And I'm glad they decided to make a protest out of this, because this is important to have a voice for the people who don't have a voice in the community, people who have their electricity shut off. Dan made a good chronological speech with how it came to be, because I remember Power Track. About 6 years ago, I tried to ask BTU to go back to that. But they said the software was no longer available, we couldn't do it. So then the second thing I asked for was maybe we could ease up on the fees. And of course we didn't get enough traction. So I think it's important that we cancel the fees. They're administrative fees. It's really to kick someone while they're down. And I think we should really be picking a hand up to these families who are struggling through no fault of their own. They didn't ask for this pandemic. It came on us, so that's the least we can do. So I'm here today to hopefully convince BTU and our city council members that we should end the fees, end the shuts off, at least until this pandemic is over, and get these people back to cool AC room.
All the way to the side, that'll probably turn up the volume the most.
I think it's good.
Oh, it's good? Okay, cool.
As long as that on button's on.
I'm Marianne. Is it on?
Yes, I just got to speak into it.
Okay, I'm Marianne. And what people don't realize is that there are a heck of a lot of people, even in good times, that are sitting in their houses, maybe with a fan, with all the lights off. They don't dare cook in the summer because it's too hot and they can't afford air conditioning. They can't even afford the little window unit. And to put a fee on these people is unconscionable.
Yes. We're gonna make everybody go. Punish them. But
This is not how it works. Oh gosh. Do I need to press anything? Am I on? Okay.
they're on.
So when I was a kid, I lived in Northgate, and we were poor, and we lived in a place that didn't have AC. So my sister and I sat in front of a rotating fan and chewed on ice in the summer. We had electricity. It is actually illegal to rent out a house without air conditioning in Texas. What BTU is doing to the families that can't afford to pay their electric bill and cutting it off should be illegal. I want you to think about that. It is in times of crisis, it is when our community should be coming together, when our governments should be coming together. BTU is owned by the city. We all pay taxes to the city. We should be able to say whether we should show compassion during crisis. That's what I think.
I don't have very much to say because truthfully I didn't know much about this, so thank you, Dan, for informing the community. But I do know just a little bit about the gospel, and so I feel that it is my moral obligation to serve the poor. And when I think about the least among us, my hope is that this gathering, this protest, brings awareness to local churches so that we can step in and willingly give, so that our preaching of the gospel can be authentic. And that's all I have to say about that.
Carlos.
Oh, yeah.
Carlos is the co-organizer of the protest.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, brother.
Hello.
It was also his idea.
Alright, so as one of the organizers, I feel like I should probably speak on this. I don't live in the city of Bryan, I live in College Station, but I do a lot of community work with people in Bryan College Station. As we know, we're basically just one big city by now, so I feel like this is also my issue. And I also hope people in College Station City Council there take this as a sign that the same thing needs to happen in College Station. But I work a lot with immigrant families, and the reason I'm here today is because when I brought up this issue to City Council and to BTU, the thing is, what did people do with their stimulus check? They got $1,200, why didn't they pay their bills then? But people don't mention that a lot of people in this community didn't get a stimulus check because they don't have papers, so they don't qualify for government benefits. And a lot of people I've spoken to, they reach out to me, and we created a GoFundMe to try to help as many people as we can, but 2,200 families is just too many to serve. When you call BTU, they give you references to different charities around the community, but most of these charities are already at capacity. They don't have the ability to help anymore, and even though they want to, there's just not enough resources. And it's really sad to see how the City Council hasn't even addressed it at all. They haven't made any sort of statement on it, any sort of understanding, and they say that they can't do it. But why can't we do it, and then Austin can stop cutting people's energy off for the next 2 months? Why can other cities across the country and across the state do it, but we can't do it here in Bryan College Station. So I'm really just here trying to speak for those people who are going to be most affected by it, because thankfully I have the privilege of being able to go all summer with my energy on and have my AC and other stuff like that. But I know a lot of people in the community can't do that, and I'm here trying to represent them and make sure that their voices are heard. And as Dan was saying, especially with this push to start school again, we know a lot of families won't be able to send their kids to school, but how can you do online school if kids don't have internet, or they don't have electricity, or they don't have any sort of basic utilities? How are they going to be worried about those things when they don't have water, like those kind of things? So I think it's just basic decency, and like the sign says, I have right here, it says it's immoral to cut someone's utilities, and I scratched off the during the pandemic part, because I was like, even in normal times it's immoral. And as Dan was saying, with fees, like to restart it you have to pay a couple $100s. It's just kicking people while they're down, further pushing them into poverty, and it's just really sad. And I'm thankful for the people here, those that helped contribute to the fundraiser to try to get help some of these people, but there needs to be some bigger action, because this is going to keep happening. I mean, COVID's not going away anytime soon, as much as we try to pretend that it will, and we don't know when this is going to be over, and we need some sort of long-term solution to help those families who are going to be affected this month and next month and the months to come. So that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Mine, and I started Megan's. Let me know if the switchover happens. Can you still hear me? All right, so it looks like it's a shakier camera. Sweet. Oh yeah, I actually had... Okay, great. Then I'm gonna leave Megan with this so she can start and stop it as she pleases. Okay, she'll probably fire it off. She'll turn it off. So why don't you leave it?